guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called 10 Ways Brits and Americans Use Numbers Very Differently. Okay, so the title of this video scares me a little bit because I have no idea about maths or numbers. So hopefully I'm not gonna be that confused. I don't know, every time I see the word numbers, I'm scared. Hopefully they're not gonna make us do any calculations. So let's check it out and comment, like and subscribe.
Oh, hello, don't mind me, just using the calculator on my phone, which I keep in my pocket just to stick it to my year 10 maths teacher who told me that I'd never have such luxury. And speaking of maths, remember a few...
That's really right, yes, because when you're at school and teachers sort of obligate you to do math and I have a calculator, I have a phone, who cares?
Videos ago when I said this.
Feeling very vindicated.
A question that I get all the time is why do British people say maths instead of math? Well, when it comes to Britain and America, this is by no means the only difference that involves numbers. In fact, since I moved to the United States, my daily life has become filled with numeric anomalies with which my brain may never come to terms. Now, before I get into that, I do want to point out that this video will not be examining our two countries' different measuring systems, because I also did that in a previous video. And while we're on the subject of numbers, if you want to propel this channel to 1 million subscribers and you haven't yet become one yourself, do that now! In the meantime, here are 10 ways that British and American people use numbers very differently. Now, before I hit record on today's video, I did a little bit of a tally as to how many places I've lived in either country. During the 26 years that I lived in Britain, I lived at precisely 5 addresses, compared to 9 during the 16 years that I've lived in America. And during that time, one major pattern has stood out to me. American addresses definitely have longer house numbers, but British addresses have longer postcodes. So it all evens out. In fact, let me give you some examples of what I mean.
Hold on, there are places in the US that have a 5-number postal code.
From memory, every single address that I had in Britain comprised of 2 digits. And pound for pound, the experience of most British people is that their house address won't ever exceed 3 digits. There are occasional exceptions to that, but in America, those exceptions seem to in fact be the rule. Because at virtually all of the places that I've lived in the US, the house or the apartment number has been in the thousands. And also at some of these addresses, the American street name...
Oh yeah, sure, it's in the thousands. I don't know, it's just 3 or 4 digits. I don't know.
...itself might contain a number like...
You're not saying 1,000. I live in 2,000. No, of course not.
321st Avenue, they don't usually go that high, but 2nd Street. In Britain, a street that's also a number is very uncommon to the extent that I'm not sure they even exist. However, as I said, Britain has America beat when it comes to the size of our postcodes. And if for whatever reason you're confused by the term postcode, it is simply what Americans know as a zip code. You see, in Britain, a postcode can range from 6 to 8 characters, where in the US it's just 5. However, notice there that I said characters and not numbers. Well, since this video is all about numbers, there is something to keep in mind here. British postcodes are a combination of letters and numbers, meaning that American zip codes probably have more numbers, but that's whatever.
It's just numbers.
The first letters in a UK postcode denote the postal region. So for example, where I grew up in Grimsby, that was part of the Doncaster postal code for some reason. So the first 2 letters are DN. And then you have a series of numbers and letters that denote a more precise location. And that's it. In America,
I like that because it tells you where to go. It's sort of where it's located.
America, it's just numbers, so that's easy. And basically, the first couple of digits are arranged by state. So here in the state of Illinois, those first 2 digits range from 60 to 62. Of course, when it comes to the size of your house number, there's one group of people who don't give a flying herd of badgers, and that's data brokers. Instead, they're so preoccupied with making bank from selling your address to people search sites. After buying my first American house, I started showing up on hundreds of them. One other series of digits over which Britain has America beat is phone numbers, actually. Typically speaking, if we're not calling from overseas, in which we would need to use a country code, then a UK phone number usually consists of 11 digits. US phone numbers, meanwhile, consist of 10, basically 2 zip codes put together. The major...
I've never thought of this. I never stopped to question myself, how many digits does this number have?
Difference here comes in the area code. For the first 20 years of my life, growing up in Grimsby, my area code code was 01472, five
seems like a lot.
digits. But it's worth keeping in mind that that only applies to landline phones. In the last 25 years, of course, we've seen the rise of the mobile phone.
Who uses a land phone? What? That doesn't exist anymore.
And or calculator. In Britain, unlike with landline phones, these are not assigned an area code. In fact, I think most, if not all, mobile phones in the UK begin with the digits 07. Incidentally, those are two digits that are going to be very important later on in this video, so keep watching. In America, I was surprised to find that this was quite different, because your mobile, or cell phone as it's usually known in the US, will usually carry the same area code as your landline phone, if you still have a landline phone. For example, the first place that I lived was Anderson, Indiana, and that city is in a region of Indiana that carries the area code 765. So all of the landlines there begin 765, and if you purchase your cell phone there, most likely that too will have the same area code. And most states, like Indiana and my current state of Illinois, are home to multiple area codes, which is why it was surprising to discover there are in fact 12 states, including the behemoth that is Alaska, that have just one. And that's because said states have more cows than people, probably. Earlier on, when I said this, just to stick it to my year 10 maths teacher who told me that I'd never have such luxury, it did occur to me that my thousands of American viewers might have been thinking, what's year 10? Was Lawrence born in the 1st century? No. A year in this instance is the equivalent of what Americans would call a grade at school. And it just happens that this particular...
But I think grade 10, I think that's high school, right?
For example, is a year populated by 14 to 15-year-olds. And you might be thinking, ooh, Lawrence, that's not 10, that's grade 9. Well, actually, it's both, you see, from between the ages of 5 to 6, British children begin what is...
A nursery. Oh, okay. The year what? Okay, this is confusing. Okay.
Known as year 1. But as I discovered while watching the documentary The Kindergarten Cop, Americans don't call that the first grade. They call it kindergarten.
Correct.
And so their numbering system is always one behind us. Oh, and speaking of...
Yeah, because after kindergarten, you start the grades, first, second, and whatever.
Years, that brings us on to this. I think at this point, most of us are probably aware that...
the Americans put the day in the second sort of spot, and I'm guessing the British do it day, month, year.
Britain and America can't agree on how to write the date. Obviously, in Britain, it's day first, month second.
And I think the rest of the world does it like that.
And year last. As evidenced by our famous Guy Fawkes slogan, remember, the 5th of November. Whereas in America, of course, it's flipped, as evidenced by July the 4th.
Of course, remember the 5th of November, yeah.
Americans usually say the 4th of July. I don't know why they do that. But for everything else, it's the month first and the day second. Why do they do that?
You know what? I've never thought of these things. It's quite true, yeah.
Well, you'll just have to watch my YouTube short all about it.
This to me doesn't make sense because you should go by more detail and then bigger, so it makes sense to me to go day, month, year.
One of my longtime patrons, Jeff, asked me on this week's secret live stream. In the US, most people have memorized their phone numbers and social security numbers. What?
I think British people don't have social security numbers, right? I believe.
Personal numbers are people expected to know in Britain. And phone numbers used to be one of those until we didn't need to anymore. But our equivalent of America's social security number is our national insurance number, or...
Oh, they do have them. Okay.
As it's known intimately to me, NIN. Nobody calls it that, really. So, what are the major numerical differences between an SSN and a NIN? Well, for once, it isn't the number of characters, because an SSN has 9 and a NIN has 9. Try saying that after 7 white Russians. But the difference here is similar to zip codes versus postcodes. A NIN is comprised of 2 letters, followed by 6 numbers, and another letter for good measure. In the US, it's all numbers. They just... America doesn't like...
What's up with the letters?
Letters. The first set of 3 digits is the area number. The second set of 2 digits is the group number. And then the final set of 4 digits is the serial number. We all care about...
Hold on, but what happens if you move? What?
Now that, obviously. The point is, I have both a NIN and an SSN, so I'm special.
Oh my god, this is confusing.
Is it real? Oh, that's a different video. Well, sometimes, to people like me who've lived on 3 different time zones, time can feel like it's ahead of its time. So I don't want to get bogged down
time is a concept
in that, because there are other differences to talk about, namely how we tell the time. For instance, in Britain, if the time is 9:15, we might well say it's 9:15. In America, you often hear a 9:15, and similarly, Brits might refer to 9:30 as 9:30, whereas Americans might say
9:30. Okay, I've never heard of that.
Say 9:30. But the
Yes.
biggest difference between British and American digital clocks can be seen once we get to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At that point, in America, clocks will simply say 1 o'clock. But not
Oh, they use military time, 13.
in Britain, where it suddenly goes from 12:59 to 13 o'clock. And that's
They
because
use military time? That's in the whole country? That to me is weird.
British clocks are on military time. And when I lived
Even the digital clocks? Oh my, okay.
in Britain, I never knew this as military time. In fact, it was Americans that alerted me to this term. I just thought of it as time, like the whole world does.
Oh, no, what? No, the whole word, it isn't? I don't know, to me that's always been military time.
This. And now that I know that it is military time, I'm
Yeah.
confused that America doesn't do it because they have the biggest military in the
You
world.
know what? Great, excellent point. He has an excellent point, yeah.
And then I found that the US military does do it, but the general public doesn't.
Yeah, doesn't.
Either way, to this very day, I instinctively know that 7 p.m. in the evening, that last word was redundant, is equal to 19 o'clock. I
yeah.
should point out that British people don't go around saying 19 o'clock. In conversation, we would say 7, which makes it even weirder, I suppose, that our clocks don't do that.
Okay. This is getting me so incredibly confused. Okay.
But anyway, a moment ago when I was talking about quarters, there was one thing that I forgot to mention because it wasn't
What?
quite relevant yet, and that's how the two countries refer to a quarter as in the fraction. Because I've noticed that Americans, like my wife for example, use the words quarter and 1/4 interchangeably. But having
Yeah,
grown up in
15.
Britain, 1/4 always sounds weird to me because then we would only say quarter in that context. But I'm afraid that I'm going to have to interrupt myself there with a couple of caveats.
Oh
The
my.
first of those is we don't have special words for other fractions except for half. But then again, if you were to say 1/2,
A third.
you could get confused with the time. And the other thing,
What do you mean? Do you have 3/4? A half? I don't. Well, not a half. Yeah. What? I'm confused.
that might explain why Americans often plump for 1/4 is that a quarter is already part of the national dialogue, because that's the name of an American coin of the same name. Did you edit this?
Yeah. Well, like 25.
And I want to finish this video by talking about 3 numbers in particular, the first of which is 0. Is 0 a number? I'm no mathematician.
Yeah.
And 0 is an interesting one
What? Of course it is, right?
to me because both countries have synonyms of the word 0 that the other country doesn't have. In America, somebody might say, I got zilch, as in I've got nothing.
Yeah, but that's using the context of you're talking, not as in the number.
As Britain's alternatives for this nice round number are often context dependent. Firstly, you've got nil, which you often find in sports.
In
as
sports,
in,
yeah.
Grimsby Town Football Club won the FA Cup final 6-0, whereas American commentators are more likely to say 6-0 or 6
Yeah.
to zilch. And then there's the word naught, which from memory is what I called 0 when I was a little kid. But it's also used in the title of a game that Americans call tic-tac-toe, a game that we call noughts and crosses. And remember earlier when
Nuts and crosses. Okay, well, I guess makes a little sense. It's weird.
I said this. My area code was 01472. This use of O to denote 0 in phone numbers is not something you often hear in America, where the preferred option would be 01472.
Okay.
And then there were 7, or 2 actually, but 7 is one of them. Here in the United States, the number 7 is almost always written with 1 horizontal stroke and 1 diagonal stroke. But as many
What?
observant Americans have often pointed out to me, this is not always the case in Britain, where to that we like to add another horizontal stroke through the middle. And you might be thinking, why do you do that? And the answer is simple: to avoid confusion with the number 1. And to all of the Americans
Well-
laughing at this idea, 7-Eleven
Okay, but I think you'll know they're different.
agrees with
I don't know. When was the last time people were writing numbers? People, all is digital these days.
me. I've just realised that's probably not an argument in my favour.
Yeah, it isn't.
And finally, how do you define 1 billion? Well, most people today who have a grasp of big numbers would tell you 1,000 million. But try telling that to British people from before the 7.
I have no idea what a billion means. I think it's 12 digits. No, millions. I don't know. This is confusing. That's why I can't do math.
Is. And that's because before 1974, British people,
It's just a lot of money. That's just whatever.
as well as a host of other countries, defined a billion as 1 million million, otherwise known as a long billion, or more commonly,
Okay, 3, 6, 9. Okay, so it's 11 digits.
a trillion. And you might be thinking, what did those British people call 1,000 million? And the answer is simple: 1,000 million. However, all of this ceased to be the case when we followed the American example, a decision that was taken by 69th UK Prime Minister Harold Wilson, not to be confused with 67th UK Prime Minister Harold Wilson. That said, most European countries actually still operate under the long billion, which makes you wonder, is Luxembourg the richest country just because it keeps adding on 3 3 zeros? I've no idea.
It's really confusing how billions means different things in different countries because that shouldn't be. It should be just one thing, right?
Well, if I've learned anything today, it's that both countries have a very different set of numbers and occasionally letters. And for somebody who's already not very good at math, this video has really made me miss my word videos. Anyway, thank you to my ponderers with whom I recently discussed this topic on our secret live streams. If you would like to become a ponderer of Lost in the Pond, you can do so today at patreon.com/lostinthepond or by clicking the join button below. Until the next video, goodbye.
Wow, I've never felt more, I felt seen. This video was so incredibly confusing to me as someone that still does very poorly at when it comes to numbers. I get the bill. I'm so confused by so many things. I think it's really, the whole thing about the billions is really confusing to me because I honestly, I'm not ashamed to admit, I have no idea what, I mean, I know, oh, billions. Yeah, I know it's a lot of money. How much is it in numbers, as in the actual sort of number? I don't really know. I think you would get, I think you kind of get more, you get more zeros, I think, but, you kind of get, okay, so 1,000 instead of 5 digits, 5, 6, I can't do it out of, I need to see it. So I have no sort of context for this. So I don't know, I'll just write 1,000,000 and then write 1 billion. Okay, so when I get to 1,000,000, I would assume, well, okay, so it's 900 millions, which I would put 2 zeros before the 9, 2 zeros, and then I'll add the number of zeros that make up a million. So that's 900 millions. And then at the next number, I think I would just add probably 3 more zeros, and how would I write a billion? And then I would just go, well, 1. I think that's how I would do it, but I'm still quite confused about the situation. I don't even know if I did it correctly because, again, I don't really know what sort of thing a billion means. I know it's a lot of money, but I don't know. Actually, I don't really know. I don't think I've never felt the need to sort of understand this because it's okay from what purpose? I mean, you have a bunch of millionaires in the world, but billionaires, I think there's few little of them, and obviously unless you're one of them, why would I care? I don't know, it's just a lot of money. I have no idea how much that actually means. No, I have no clue. But what's really confusing on top of that is apparently no, the Europeans sort of do it differently, and in the US it means something else. That's what do you mean it means something else? Because it's as in a word or something, as in, I don't know, the word tiger, okay, yeah, it changes the meaning, but not the meaning, that's the whole thing. It changes, the word changes, and obviously depending on what language you are or what language you're talking, you're saying, but whatever, it's just the animal, and you'll know a tiger is a tiger, and it's a tiger in Russia, and it's a tiger in, I don't know, in Malaysia, and it's a tiger in Canada. But what do you mean if I tell you a billion and then you translate this into whatever language? It's, oh, well, no, but hold on, it means something else. It's what? No, that shouldn't be. The word should mean the same because it's the same thing. And especially, I think, when we're talking about, because I think that can happen sometimes with other kind of words, but it's more about, I don't know, other sort of type of things and objects, but with something that is not a tangible thing, although I guess maybe it is, but nobody has $1 billion just sitting in a vault somewhere. You can't. It's just a lot of physical bills. So nobody does this. Again, it's tangible, but again, it's math. Math should be the same. It's sort of a universal language, I think. It doesn't matter if 2 people are talking in different languages, supposedly math, which you should be able to understand each other through math. Obviously not, you're not talking through math, but what I mean is if you're doing operation and it doesn't matter what language you speak, because everyone is universal, everyone's going to understand this. So to me, that's the weirdest thing about this is math. What do you mean it's different? Shouldn't this be sort of an exact science? That's why it's math, and that's really confusing to me. I have never heard of this before. And I'm left even more confused. If I didn't know what a billion was before, I think I still do not know. I'm still super unclear on what is this. The other thing that was, I think, kind of surprising, crazy to me, the social security number. I didn't know that the British had this. Obviously, it makes sense for them to have this. Yes, of course, you have sort of the equivalent. But I think, okay, so it has more numbers. Okay, well, that again, that depends on in which country you are. Okay, that's another thing. That's another issue. But I guess what I'm confused about this is, what do you mean you have letters? Because a social security number, I guess, yes, they're not called the same. It's not a social security number, but still, it has the letters, and it has the letters. I think depending on, I don't know, where you apply to get one, or I don't know, or where do you live? That changes. What happens if I move? Or everyone's gonna know. Oh, well, not everyone, because again, it's something that you're not going around yelling your number. But it's kind of weird because, okay, so you can sort of say, oh, well, by those two little letters, I know that you sort of applied in this particular place in the UK. I don't know. This is very confusing to me. The other thing that I found it quite weird, and in a funny way, was the military time. I think, yes, of course, it's military time. I don't know how else to call it. It's military time. What would you expect me to be when there's numbers that's in 14, 15, 16? I think, yeah, it's military because military uses this. I did not know that the Brits did this, as in, hey, we'll meet. Do they say we'll meet at 15 o'clock? No, I guess you would say, no, we'll meet at 3. But when you look at the numbers in the digital clock, it's going to be 13, 14, 16. But when you're talking, if I understood this correctly, no, you're going to be, yes, and yeah, we'll meet at 20. We'll meet at 8, not 20. I think this can be quite confusing. I think in the US, they don't really teach you this. I think, yeah, I guess, yeah, you just know it as military time, but nobody really uses this. Because it's weird. All the clocks obviously are, yes, they just gotta go. Yeah, it's 4, it's 5, it's 6. It doesn't matter if the sort of the distinct thing is AM or PM. But I think this can be quite confusing for some people. I think the easiest trick to kind of learn it, I think once you learn it, you kind of, it's in your brain and you're not going to forget about it. But I think the easiest way to sort of learn this is you sort of remove the two numbers, you kind of subtract. If it's 17, so it's 7, so you remove 2 and it's 5, and that's how you know. So I think that's sort of an easy trick to learn this, I think. And even then, it's 21, so it's 1 as an 11, and you take away 2 and it's 9. So I think that's the easy way to learn this, and I think maybe they'll teach you, I think, at some point, maybe, I don't know. But that's I think the easy trick. But even then, you kind of do not go around knowing this, because everyone uses the normal time way to say time. To me, it's just the normal way. And again, I'm not expecting people to sort of go with military time, because that's weird. So I don't know, that was confusing. The grades situation, as in the schooling sort of system, to me that's weird. So the UK doesn't have a kindergarten. That's weird, because obviously kinder sort of the one, it's what you have pre-K, you have kindergarten. So in the UK they do not have this. They only have, what is it, you have grade 1. I can't remember how they called it. But they don't have a preschool either, to me. I think before was something called nursery. So I guess that's babies, because obviously it's a nursery. But again, what age are you expected to go to the nursery? Because to me, a nursery is for little newborns and babies. So I don't know. It's weird. It's not. You don't go to school. The baby's 1 year old. What are you gonna teach it? It doesn't know how to speak. So maybe they'll teach you how to speak. I don't know. Very confusing. But what's more confusing to me is, so they don't have a pre-K, they don't have a kindergarten. They go from nursery, which I think is for babies. I have no idea what year they go. And then they start in year 1. 1 year. It was year 1, I think. Year 1. Okay. Year 5, I think. I don't know. This is really strange to me. I think it's really when the schooling system, I think, starts, because I think obviously when you're at preschool or, kindergarten, even then kindergarten level, I think it's just, you're being taught sort of things, numbers and stuff, but it's not real school. I think real school starts, to me, at first grade, just because I think it's kind of when you actually start to learn, I think, more things. Obviously you learn other things, but I don't know how to, I'm explaining this horribly, but I think it's just when the actual sort of schooling system for real starts. I would assume it's first grade, just because, yeah, that's how it starts. It's first, second, third, and then you go until you get, obviously, to high school is 9th grade. But I think, whatever. So that they don't do the whole senior, junior, I would assume, when you're in high school, and you don't say, hey, I'm in high school, right? No, you wouldn't say I'm in high school. You would say I'm in year 11. I don't know how many years. I think you want to count them, right? Oh, what year? I started school when I was what, 5, so you go 5 year 1, and I was 7 when I started. Well, yeah, 6, so, you should go 5, 6, 6, 7. So you would go year 1, I was 5, 6, and then year 2 I was 7 and 8. I don't know, that seems really confusing to me. So, and especially if you don't have the sort of I left elementary school and I started. You don't have this. You don't have the whole. I now I started high school. You don't get that. I think to me it's really weird, because then how do you know when you start high school? You don't. It's sort of a continuous kind of thing. I don't know, confusing, extremely confusing to me. And I think the more I think about it, the more, oh my God, the more, I don't know, mind blowing the whole thing is. And yes, this video was very funny, interesting. I feel, yes, very, very eye opening, but at the same time, so incredibly confusing. And I can't, if I start thinking about these kind of things, it makes my head hurt. So I'm going to stop now. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.